Director James Comey because of the handling of the investigation, but he knew how the investigation was handled when he asked him to stay on, when he asked FBI Director James Comey to stay on as FBI Director.
Right.
Including the meeting that they had January 6th, I think it was. Okay? All right, so that was one thing. Secondly, Comey said he was honestly concerned that Trump might lie about their interactions. Now, this was a bombshell, and this a lot of news headlines were written about this. He's basically calling the president a liar. Washington Post had an article, Comey, White House lied about me, FBI. There was also another article from the New York Times, Comey bluntly raises possibility of Trump obstruction and condemns him and condemns his quote-unquote lies. All right, so when we look at this, Comey said he documented his private conversations with the MEMCONs, Memorandum of Conversations. He documented these in part because of the quote-unquote nature of the person. The nature of the person. So he said that he feared that Trump would lie about what happened, and he needed to document every detail of what took place with these interactions with Donald Trump. Now,
is that where he said, "Lordy, I hope he has tapes"?
Yeah, that was in one of the lines of questioning from the U.S. Senate. He said the conversation about the tapes came up, and he said, "Lordy, I hope there are tapes." And he wants the tapes to come out. Okay. Now, what's interesting is Kellyanne Conway yesterday, I think it was on CNN or Fox, she was interviewed, and the conversation about tapes came up. She said she couldn't comment on the tapes. Okay. Why can't you comment on the tapes? It was Trump who brought them up. Either you have them or you don't have them. Either you have them or you don't have them. Okay.
And why didn't she say there are no tapes?
Well, the reason I think they're trying to go along with this bluff of Trump. I don't think there are tapes, number one. Sarah Huckabee Sanders wouldn't say whether there were tapes or not. Go ahead.
Here's the problem if there are tapes.
Sure.
It strengthens the claim of the whole back channel communication with Russia. Because if there are tapes and the Secret Service did not put them in, that means the Trump organization put them in.
Right.
Which is outside the U.S. government, which is a whole another ball of wax.
Right. Right. Well, the other thing is you know, it came up about the conversation with Trump, and he asked Attorney General Jeff Sessions to leave the room. This is in the Oval Office. Leave the room. Jared Kushner left the room, and according to the testimony, Jeff Sessions was reluctant to leave the room because he probably suspected something was up, and Comey suspected something was up when he's asking these other people to leave the room, and they're just in the room by himself. Now, Comey talked about how in his opening, I think it was in his opening statement, he talked about how in the years he served under President Obama, he only had 2 one-on-one interactions with Obama, where they were by themselves. 2 one-on-one interactions, and one of them was for Comey to say goodbye to President Obama towards the end of Obama's term. Okay, with Trump, he's had 9 one-on-one interactions with him. Okay, 3 in person, 6 on the phone. All right, and this is extremely, extremely rare and disturbing.
And the longest one with Obama was about race and justice.
Yeah.
Race in the FBI.
Yes, yes. Okay, so Comey said he documented his private conversation with Trump in part because of the nature of the person. He said, quote, I was honestly concerned that he might lie about the nature of our meetings. And for those diehard Trump supporters who think, oh, well, Trump would never lie about this, well, you should check out you should do some fact checking. Number one, check out the Washington Post, July 1st, 2016. A fact checker looked into 158 things Donald Trump said 78% were false. Okay, out of 158 statements, this is during the campaign, 78% were false. But it gets even better because in the first 100 days of the Trump regime, he made 492 false or misleading claims in the first 100 days. Washington Post, 100 days of Trump claims. 100 days of Trump claims. Check this out. They have it broken down by category, Steve. They document each one of the false claims. They have it broken down by category: jobs, immigration, foreign policy, healthcare, economy, biographical record, election, crime, environment, trade, taxes, and then a category for miscellaneous. So this is very well documented. You're dealing with a pathological liar here, okay? So now Comey said that the next thing, number 3, is Comey said he is sure the special counsel, Robert Mueller, former FBI director, will look into whether Trump obstructed justice. Okay, now this was big yesterday. Comey told the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee that Trump told aides, such as Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, to leave the Oval Office on February 14th. This is February 14th, yeah, Valentine's Day. Comey said Trump then brought up ending the probe into the Michael Flynn. Okay. At his hearing, Comey said it was not for him to say whether the president sought to obstruct justice, but he then added that he was sure the special counsel Robert Mueller will look into that. Okay, and it's probably being looked into right now. Now, one of the things that came out yesterday was Comey confirmed that at the time that he spoke with Trump, he confirmed that Trump was not under investigation. Just because he was not under investigation back then, a few months ago or 2 months ago, does not mean he's not under investigation now. First of all, you have the criminal investigation with special counsel Robert Mueller, number 1. Number 2, the investigation that the FBI is conducting, that is a counterintelligence investigation. Okay? Now, with these types of investigations, there's no telling where they can lead, okay? And you may not start at the top. You allow the evidence to take you where it's going to lead. We know that the FBI investigation started in late July 2016 after the 35-page dossier compiled by ex-MI6 agent Christopher Steele was turned over to FBI agents. Okay, he turned this dossier over to FBI agents, and then in July, and then the FBI investigation is going to start in late July 2016, and it continues today. Okay, so just because he wasn't under investigation during the 3 times that Comey assured Trump he was not under investigation does not mean he's not under investigation now. Now, what's very interesting, Steve, is that there's been a lot of comparisons to Watergate. Now, this is much worse than Watergate. Watergate was
How is this worse than Watergate?
Well, Watergate was a third-rate break-in, and the real crime was the cover-up in Watergate. Not the crime. The real crime was the cover-up and obstruction of justice. First article of impeachment against Richard Nixon. Obstruction of justice. He tried to use the CIA to get the FBI to back off of the Watergate investigation. He fires the person leading up the investigation into Watergate also. Okay, so there's been a lot of comparisons to Watergate lately. Now, this is moving much faster than Watergate. It took about 2 years, if I remember correctly, for you to get a special prosecutor in the Watergate case. Right. You have special counsel after about 118 days into Trump's administration. This is moving much, much faster than Watergate. Now, Nick Ackerman wrote an article yesterday for the New York Daily News, okay? And he talked about it last night on, I think it was the Rachel Maddow show last night, okay? Now, for those who are not familiar with Nick Ackerman, he's a former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, and he was an assistant special Watergate prosecutor. So he was involved in the Watergate prosecution. He wrote an article yesterday that appears this morning on the front page, New York Daily News. Pile of evidence proves Trump committed federal crime in attempt to obstruct FBI investigation. Now, this is somebody who has experience with obstruction of justice because he was an assistant special prosecutor in Watergate. Okay, so people should check out this article from New York Daily News. Pile of evidence proves Trump committed federal crime in attempt to obstruct FBI investigation. This is written by Nick Ackerman. This is somebody who has experience with this, okay? All right, so if we continue. Now, Comey wants Trump to release the recordings if they exist, okay? And in response, he said, "Lordy, I hope there are tapes, okay? Because this will confirm what Comey has been saying." Now, for people who say, "Well, this is a he said situation," not exactly. No, here's why. Former FBI Director James Comey testified under oath with the penalty of perjury in front of the U.S. Intel Senate Committee. Not only did he testify yesterday, he actually took questions. Not only did he testify under oath and take questions, he also had contemporaneous notes to back up what he was talking about that coincided with the times that he was talking about. Okay? Not only did he do this, but when it came to the February 14th meeting, where Trump asked him, implied to him, he said, "I hope you can let this go," referring to the Michael Flynn investigation. He told people around him, shortly after that, he's going to tell people around him in the FBI that this took place also. He then documents this with the MEMCOMs, Memorandum of Conversation. Okay? Here, now you have Trump on the other side, who spoke through his attorney, who made some grave mistakes yesterday, Mark Kazowicz, in his press conference. And Trump was not under oath, and Kazowicz did not take questions from the media. Okay, so you have one person on one side who's under oath, penalty of perjury if he lies, takes questions from the U.S. Senate Intel Committee, has contemporaneous notes to back up what he's talking about, and then when it came to Trump asking him February 14th to drop the case, drop the investigation surrounding Michael Flynn, he told people around him to also further document. Okay, so this is much more than a he said, okay? Now, Fox News may want to make it that, but no, when you deal with facts and reality, that's not the case. This is much more than he said, okay? I know we're coming up on the break, Steve, so
yeah,
you want to chime in here?
No, I mean, you've given an excellent discourse.
Okay.
On it.
And there's more. But wait,
there's more.
But wait, there's more. we'll get to this on the other side of the break. Go ahead.
As we get into more,
yeah.
Where do we head with this? I don't think it goes to impeachment.
Well, here's the thing, Steve. Number one, I think. Oh, okay. Number one, I think is going to. I still maintain Trump is going to be forced to resign from office. Okay?
Well, I think so too. Just the same way Nixon was.
Absolutely.
Because if you're impeached, if you have to go before Congress, you have to testify under oath. He's not going to do that.
Well, yeah. The last thing a pathological liar wants to happen is that you're put on trial with penalty of perjury. Okay. Now, as this continues, and you're starting to see some Republicans starting to back away from Trump. You're starting to see this. Okay. It's possible articles of impeachment may be drawn up. That's possible. As more and more information comes out, and it becomes glaringly clear. As more and more information comes out, and it becomes glaringly clear, okay, to a 3-year-old that there was obstruction of justice, articles of impeachment may be drawn up. But once again, like I said before, I don't think Trump is going to make it to the end of this year as president. I think he's going to be forced to resign. And if you were shocked when Ali B. Foreman's behind, wait until you see Donald Trump resign.
Mr. Macon, take us to break. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with more analysis of James Comey's testimony. I also want to talk to you about these exhibits that are going on at all of Detroit's cultural institutions, commemorating the riots.
Okay, the rebellions, right? Yes.
The rebellions.
Yes.
Excuse me.
We'll talk about the difference between the... So that came into it. So Comey said he thinks it had something to do with the Russian investigation. He said, quote, "I know I was fired because of something about the way I was conducting the Russian investigation was in some way putting pressure on him, in some way irritating him, and he decided to fire me because of that," end quote. Now, what's interesting is that when you look at obstruction of justice, they're going to look at a pattern, because Comey is the third person who Trump fired who was investigating him. Investigating him in the campaign. So we know first you had Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates. You have U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara. And we know that his territory was Manhattan, and Trump Tower was in his territory as well. So this is the third person who Trump fired who was investigating him. Okay. Now, it came out yesterday that Comey leaked his memos in hopes that that would lead to a special counsel. Comey testified that he decided to orchestrate a leak of memos he wrote after encounters with Donald Trump. He said, quote, "I asked a friend of mine to share the content of a memo with the reporter. With the reporter. He said, I didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to do it because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel." So the friend that he got to do this was Columbia law professor Daniel Richmond.
Oh, he did name the fan.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Right. That came out, and that's been confirmed by NBC News. Mm-hmm. Now, the Trump's attorney had a press conference yesterday, which did not go very well. Okay, and his attorney's name is Mark Kasowitz. Okay, Mark Kasowitz is not a Washington attorney. He's not an attorney that has experience with government. He has handled. He's a personal attorney for Trump. He handled him in the Trump University, fake university scam that Trump had. Mm-hmm. He's handled him in some real estate deals, things like this. Number one, three main problems with the press conference. Number one, he stated that Trump did not ask for Comey's loyalty. Okay, Comey testified under oath, penalty of perjury, that Trump did ask for his loyalty. Number one. Number two, Trump never asked to end the investigation. So he said that Trump never asked to end the investigation or applied to end the investigation into Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Comey, under oath, testified not only that he did, but also told some people around him in the FBI that this happened, and had notes to document what happened also. Okay, so that's the second thing that was wrong. Third thing that was wrong was that the timeline of the release of the memo in the New York Times article was wrong also. So Kasowitz said that the memo was leaked prior to Trump tweeting on May 12th that Comey better hope that there are no tapes. Okay, that's not true. And the New York Times tweeted yesterday that said, no, we posted that article on the 16th after Trump posted the tweet. And what came out yesterday was the reason why Comey decided to release the memos was because of Trump's tweet on May 12th. So Trump keeps stepping on landmines that are blowing up in his face and accelerating his own demise. Okay, so that tweet was May 12th. Then the article from the New York Times was May 16th. Okay, so there were three things wrong with his $1,500 an hour attorney's press conference yesterday. I wonder if he's going to get a discount on his rate because of these debacles yesterday with Kasowitz in this press conference.
I doubt he's going to get a break, but I heard that Kasowitz was actually walking around passing out cigars and saying, "We won."
Well, Trump tweeted this morning that he's totally vindicated. I don't know what he was watching. He wasn't totally vindicated.
But you know what's interesting? When he tweets, he's talking to his base.
Well, yeah, he's talking to his base, and on Twitter, it's speculated that half of those accounts are false. Number one, he's tweeting to his base, but his base is dwindling. Number one. Number two, he has to understand he's not the president of his base. He's the president of the entire America, approximately 323 million people. Number two. Number three, he has to understand that there are multiple investigations and that those tweets are presidential records, and they can be used against him. He's stupid.
And it's already hurting him in his attempt to get the travel ban to the Supreme Court.
Well, not only is it hurting him, he's admitted that it's a travel ban. He tweeted 3 times, I think it was this weekend, about the travel ban, and he had in all capital letters that it's a travel ban. He has his attorneys arguing it's not a travel ban, and once again, here you have Dumb Donald undermining the people who are out representing him in the media, and they're saying, oh, it's not a travel ban. Sean Spicer saying, no, he's using the terminology that the media used. No, he kept tweeting over and over again, it's a travel ban.
A travel ban.
Yeah. And he said, I don't care what the media or the courts say, it's a travel ban.
Michael,
yes.
we can beat this very much a live horse to death.
Oh, no. We're just giving an overview.
You know, we can beat him to death. And I don't mind. I don't mind staying on this topic.
Oh, no.
But
we can go
at some point in time, it becomes enough. I read in the paper this morning that all of our major cultural institutions, museums, are going to have tributes to the 1967 what?
Rebellion.
Rebellion.
Now, the difference between, let me just give this quickly. NBCnews.com, read the article, James Comey testimony. Here are 9 key moments from the hearing. And I took notes. I watched it yesterday, DVR'd it, going back and watch it again. Here are 9 key moments from the hearing. Then also, check out the article, NBCnews.com. Comey, White House lied, plain and simple, about firing. Comey, White House lied, plain and simple, about firing. So the difference between a rebellion and a riot. A riot is what white college students have after they lose a basketball championship. That's a riot. They're out in the streets setting couches on fire, turning over cars. Nobody was shot and killed. They lost the basketball championship. That's a riot. A rebellion is people fighting against an oppressive system. And the rebellion is a last resort.
Do you think everybody involved in the riots knew that?
Not everybody, but a lot of people did.
So and some people could have been just rioting.
Some people could have taken. Some people probably took advantage of it. But you have, if we go back, first of all, 1967, you're going to have 159 violent uprisings in the U.S. in 1957. Okay, you have Newark, New Jersey. You have Newark, New Jersey. You have the Watts riots, Watts rebellions. You have Detroit. You're going to have some are going to be on a smaller scale, some on a larger scale. And this was building up. You have rebellions in 64, 65. We see them after Malcolm X is assassinated. Then President Lyndon Johnson, who is going to, and the Kerner Commission was designed to find out, why are these rebellions taking place? Okay, why are these rebellions taking place? And they basically stated that America was quickly becoming two Americas, separate and unequal. Okay, and once again, as we talked about yesterday, politics is dealing with the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. And they talked about the poverty, lack of opportunity in many cities, things like this. Okay, so blackpast.org had a very good article dealing with the Kerner Commission. Okay, blackpast.org dealing with the Kerner Commission. People should read that. I talked about this, a couple weekends ago at the Charles H. Wright Museum. I did a presentation for African Liberation Day. And I talked about this because my presentation was on I dealt with African American resistance in the era of Donald Trump, voter suppression, reparations, and how elections have consequences.
So can we expect another rebellion these days?
What I'm saying is that if certain conditions are not changed, then the seeds for that tree to grow once again exists. Okay, if a certain incident happens, it's possible it can jump off again. Okay, right. What people have to do, and this is why Duggan's speech at Mackinac Island, one of the reasons why it's so important, and other people have done this also, but it's good that he said this to white people. The history of Detroit and how public policy, federal, state, and local policy helped create the conditions that led up to the rebellion in the first place. Okay, you talk about the Federal Housing Administration in '49 with the letting white people put down 3% down on low interest loans to get houses built out in the suburbs. You have the deindustrialization of the inner city, things like this. Okay, so it's important for us to understand this history.
Michael, where can people catch you this weekend?
Well, tonight is Friday. Teaching my online class, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach in school. Visit AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com for more information to register there. And it's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. All the sessions are recorded. And then Sunday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here, the African History Network show, 9:10 a.m. the Superstation.
All right. Thank you, Michael Imhotep.
Hey, thanks for having me back again, Steve.
All right, Ramante, you were great this morning. Mr. Macon, just one question for you.
Yes.
How can a person say they're going to do more for black business as a mayor if they won't pay their own black vendor and then get outed on television?
It is a bad one.
I mean, if Comey Young is not going to pay a simple bill to a website designer, which is his current major source of people getting information on the campaign. He's not going to pay a black man that he hired. How can he do more for black vendors if he ever becomes mayor?
Now, has he paid him in the past? Was this an installment or was this the total payment?
Dude, I don't know, but he owes him $400, and his soul brother took him down.
Apparently, some months have gone by.
Monthly payment.
It was a monthly payment.
Monthly
Yeah,
payment,
he took him down.
Okay, it was a monthly payment. So you can't let that happen again.
I paid net
but it doesn't mean that he hasn't paid him in the past. So just to state that for the record.
But the soul brother had to take him down.
Right.
It's so embarrassing.
That's still not a good look.
It's like that. It's like that sound when you didn't used to pay your phone bill.
That's still not a good look.
He can recover. He can recover.
He can. He's got to prove that he can play black vendors. He's got to prove that he can play black vendors.
If you go say you're going to create more jobs, you got to at least know that those jobs will be paying too, right?
But in all fairness, he may have other African American vendors that he has paid,
Right.
and then also this was a monthly installment, so it appears that he's paid the monthly installment in the past. He didn't pay it this time. You can't let
it's been a while. It's been a while because the guy said he went to his mama, then he went to his aunt, and then he went to the Adolf.
Right. What do you call a while?
It's been a while.
Well, but my thing, you can't let stuff like this happen.
Well, you know, most businesses, you have like 30 days on the invoice to pay it. I mean, 90 days? Hey, you got 90 days. Coming up on that. Coming up on that time.
But I'm sure more details will come out. I'm sure Adolf will talk about this on this show, and more details will come out. But we should deal with the facts
From
and
his
evidence.
side of it.
We should deal with the facts and evidence.
We did.
Dealing with this.
We did.
But it appears this was a monthly installment, and most likely he's paid the monthly installment.
No.
So we don't want to make it seem like...
Look at that. You can't even pull it up on Google.
We don't want to make it seem like he's never paid the vendor.
My man removed it from the search bar.
We don't want to make it seem like he's never paid the vendor.
What if Duggan put my man on now?
If I'm Duggan, I'm taking that guy. I'm taking the domain. I'm taking every domain that even looks like Comey Young. That's it. TooBlackForYou.com.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. That's the new Comey Young website.
Yeah.